to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and pay tribute to their history, their culture and their ongoing contributions to our community. And thanks to the organisers for organising this event. You'd have to say it's a beautiful day for a wedding. Right now across Sydney, and you'd have to say across Australia, there was probably thousands of couples getting married with friends and family, enjoying the happiness and thinking of the future. But as we know, there is enormous discrimination in the marriage ceremonies in this country. There is so many people who are locked out of that possibility. And I think we have to nail why we have this problem, why we have this discrimination. It's because there is a grouping of Conservative MPs leading the Labor, Liberal and National parties. Now I acknowledge that within those parties there are a number of MPs who do support the rights of everybody to get married to whoever they wish, who do stand up for marriage equality. But the problem is with a Conservative grouping of MPs who are causing so much damage. Because we know public opinion is on our side. The polls show that 60% of Australians support marriage equality. So why are these Conservative politicians causing so much damage? I think it's worth looking at what's been said and also maybe considering why. And I'm referring here to the Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, Deputy Prime Minister Julia Gillard and Opposition Leader Tony Abbott. So one from Labor's side and one from the Coalition side, Julia Gillard. Now in this story we can take encouragement from the impact our movement for marriage equality is having, but also our alarm bells have to ring. Julia Gillard, just prior to the National ALP conference about July-August last year, is interviewed on Sky News by David Spears, and he does actually grill her about her attitude on marriage equality. Now the fact that those questions are even being asked on Sky News is a credit to all of you. That issue is only on the public agenda of the media because of our movement. And it's a real reminder how we've got to build our movement of public agitation. But then there is the worrying aspects of what Julia Gillard, as Deputy Prime Minister, said. The first question from David Spears was, what's your party attitude on marriage equality? She rules it out. Okay, so that is their policy. But then when we see the worrying aspects of this interview was when she was questioned about her personal attitude. And at that point, she should have had the courage to stand up for the rights of everyone, stand by some decent principles and say, no, I think everyone should have a right to marry who they choose. Now that should have been Julia Gillard's response. She wouldn't have been expelled from a party. I believe that she would have won great credit for herself and her Labor Party and have helped shift this debate, but she didn't. She lined herself up with the likes of Tony Abbott and the Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. So then moving on to Tony Abbott himself, we know that on so many issues he is going to be a disaster for this country. And his recent comments on issues to do with the LGBTI community are deeply alarming. In an interview with 60 Minutes he stated, I probably feel a bit threatened by homosexuals, as many people do. Now let's Now let's remember, when Tony Abbott speaks, he knows what he's doing. He might be presented that he's a bit mad and he flies off the handle, but believe me, the man knows what he's doing. And what he was doing then was pushing some dangerous buttons. He was out there to try and win more Conservative votes and to wind back, to get an agenda going to wind back social reforms. So when it comes to Rudd and Gillard and Abbott, we have to be so wary. And today we are sending them a clear message. It's a clear message to wake up to the 21st century. We've got to urge these people, seriously, like they should just get out and ask people, what's your attitude to marriage equality? Because I can guarantee them, most people would say, it's a no-brainer. What's your problem? And that's the question we need to put to them. It's not our problem, it's their problem. They're showing their prejudice and we need to keep the pressure on them every point of it. The Greens will continue to campaign on this issue, taking parliamentary action and community action. As many of you would be aware, my colleague in the Senate, Sarah Hanson-Young, introduced a private member's bill on this issue. Now the bad news is that it was voted down. The good news is, and again I think we can take encouragement from this, and it's again a credit to our movement, is that when the vote was taken on the Greens legislation to have marriage equality, a third of the senators were missing from the chamber. That means a third did not vote. And from what we can see, a lot of them were embarrassed by what their parties were doing and actually support our movement. And our movement can give them strength and them courage, because they have to take the fight into their party room and put it on the likes of Gillard and Rudd and Abbott to get with the 21st century, get over their prejudices and grant marriage equality. So that's certainly our message for today, is to these Conservative politicians, just put your prejudices in the garbage bin or just leave them at home. We need marriage equality. We can get it. We will win on this issue. The question is when, and our public agitation will answer that question. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Lee. It's fantastic to see the support. I know there's been a bit of media coverage about the Greens.